Hey everybody, it's Trainer Nick, and in today's video I want to share something a little bit special with you. As you see in the title, I don't know exactly what I'm going to call it, but today is just a shorter version of how I came to be in my circle of online coaches, my network of friends. We call this a hero story or origin story, and I just always have found that fitting just for me and my personality and my interests, as well as especially what the brand is now and our vision moving forward. And I just want to share some of that with you today in a more shorter, compact, and easier digestible form, since it'll be at the top of my Facebook. So here we go, how I came to be as a personal trainer and online coach, how I became Trainer Nick. So I believe mine starts a little earlier than most people's, and here is how we're going to get into that, and I'll explain why. I actually think it all started when I was about 4 years old. So let's get into that. Why? Because ever since I could remember, since I was born, I remember my parents letting me watch cartoons, and my grandma and grandparents at my grandparents' house, they watched different movies, cartoons, and they all had something crazy in common. There was superheroes, there was guys lifting weights. I was born in 1995, and I ended up watching a lot of 80s and 90s cartoons. And for that era specifically, they were super macho men, super buff. They were lifting weights, doing superhuman things, lifting weights, and having these superhuman feats. Just doing things very physical, very out of the ordinary. And I remember at 4 years old, I was in my grandparents' basement, and I found some really old plates, weighted plates. They were the old kind that are made out of like plastic or PVC or whatever, and they're filled with sand. You know what I'm talking about, the really, really old ones before they started making them out of cast iron and whatnot. Or it was at least made alongside. I'm not sure the actual history there, but I remember finding them. I think they were like five, probably some 2.5s, maybe some five, maybe a 10 was the biggest, but it was probably 2.5 and a couple fives, and then I think 110. I had five total plates. It wasn't much, but I do remember actually finding a stick in the yard, and actually like I said, I couldn't have been. I really don't think I was any older than 4 or 5. I'm not even sure if I was in preschool yet. And I remember putting them on each side, laying down on the cold basement floor. And I remember doing bench press. I remember doing bench press was mostly it. I remember doing some curls, dropping weights off of it because it was just a stick, and dropped it on my foot probably, or got close. So then I started grabbing them on the inside, or grabbing the outside of the stick and the weights on the inside, so it wouldn't drop. And I probably at least once tried to do some squats or something because I had seen a lot of different things. I don't. I need to do my research later and figure out like what movies I actually saw, because there was some crazy goofy movies my grandma had watched too that had people doing superhuman things and doing crazy things, just that are not human and out of the ordinary. So I think that was a lot of exposure to that, and it all started around 4 or 5. But 6, 7, going up through grade school and middle school, that's when I got into more superhero cartoons like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, watched some Captain America, watched some Superman, Batman, Dragon Ball, got into some anime and stuff too as I was middle school and high school. But growing, I'd always really enjoyed comics. I actually could draw a little bit, so I used to draw my own comics all the time. So, like, I've always really just been into the superhero stuff. So, and I talked about how I progressed into it as I got older, but let's rewind back to about 6 years old, I think it was. I was in kindergarten. And we were going through, and I remember we had an easel set up, and the teacher was going through our names and asking everybody what we wanted to be when we grew up, and wrote it down that this person wants to be this, so, oh, I want to be a firefighter, oh, I want to be a police officer, oh, I want to be a doctor, photographer, all these different things. She got to me, Nick, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I thought, okay. I wasn't sure. I don't know why I said this as a kid. Maybe I didn't have the word superhero understood yet or whatever, but I told her, or maybe I knew that this wasn't going to fly. Maybe I already knew it. But I remember telling her, somebody that protects people from monsters. And she goes, I'm sorry, Nick, but you're thinking of a superhero, and that's not quite something you can do in real life. What are you thinking then? I end up choosing dentist. I don't know. But yeah, I just want to be a superhero. And that being said, telling that little story, I just say it because I can remember it. I don't bash the teacher at all. If anything, I'd like to reach out to her again and be like, I made it. So it's awesome there. But even then, I liked the whole superhero thing. I liked playing a lot of video games. Super Smash Bros was another big one. Anybody that understands that or knows what I'm talking about there. So I just had a lot of that. Some people saw it as violence, but that superheroism, doing things, jumping buildings, flying, throwing buildings, giant rocks, stopping things that should have killed you, but being able to deal with that. So fast forward a few years, what actually got me into lifting weights was let's see, we moved forward a few years. Always been a pretty active kid. I was a little on the small. I don't know. I'd been told several times I was a big boy, but growing up, definitely later on realized that I'm not as big as what I thought. Maybe I was a little on the small side, but I was definitely a rambunctious kid, ran everywhere. So I didn't have. I was all muscle and bone for a while, all skin and bone. There was no fat on me, but something happened. I think what happened was I played a lot of baseball growing up. Since I was about 4 years old, I played baseball, and then I think it was probably whenever I was in fifth grade, going into sixth grade. So just finished fifth grade, going into sixth grade. Would have been 11 or 12. But would have been 11, turning 12 that fall. I think was the first year I didn't play baseball, and because of that I sat around that summer, probably ate. I'm just going off of what I don't remember everything, so I'm just going off of what I know and what probably happened, but I think I ate a lot of stuff that I shouldn't have, and snacked a lot because I remember just how much we had snacks available and how much of a snacker I was, and pigged out on all the stuff. But I ended up gaining a bunch of weight. I think at my heaviest I ended up being about 165 pounds in sixth grade. And I remember that because I started to realize myself I was pudgy, and I was getting winded a lot easier, and it was rougher, playing the sports, being in PE, because I just absolutely love PE, playing kickball, dodgeball. I sorry, hopefully I don't get super emotional here, but I remember gaining a lot of this weight. I think it was about 165, but the thing that really got to me was I actually started having a girl call me fat every day at school, making fun of me for being fat, and just just pointing out the pudge, constantly making fun of me, and a bunch of other kids got into it too. So then I'm already aggravated with myself that I can't. I'm not as athletically gifted as some of these other kids, or they seem to have just much more stamina because they're in better shape. But I was already, the hormones were starting to kick in. I'm sure that's why I was pudgy. There was a lot of hormones kicking in my adolescence, getting ready to hit puberty, and starting to hit puberty. And, man, I just remember how crappy I felt because, I was a pudgy kid, and everybody just kept calling me fat. And I remember, I starved myself a few times. I tried to run around and do a bunch of different things, and it just sucked. And, every day I got called fat or pudgy, or, I won't repeat some of the things, but it was a hard time in sixth grade to deal with that. But thank the good Lord, that was also the time they started having weightlifting classes at school. They were going to, in the sixth grade, they have us in the spring start lifting weights to get us ready for seventh and eighth grade football in the fall, because that's when we got out of Y football and started Mighty Mites and started playing for the school. So I jumped in there wanting to do that just because I was like, I got to figure out something, and I was wanting to lift weights anyways because I had talked all this crap all my life about how big and strong I was, and then I was like, well, I guess it's time to prove it. Walked in there, 165 pounds, could bench the bar I think 4-5 times. I barely got 5 the first time I jumped in and did it. And I had kids that were like 80, 90 pounds jumping in and benching it right after me, so I felt just horrible. But thankfully I stuck with it because I really did enjoy it. It made me feel kind of like a superhero. I was doing the hard training like some of these superheroes do, and I was doing the hard things like these superheroes do, or the training they were doing, or the other things that they did in the shows and stuff. I was relating it to that, and it was making me feel good. So that's how I just fell in love with it and started pushing myself constantly. I wanted to be as strong as I could be, and I was like, I got to be stronger. Now I'm getting made fun of for being weak, but this is something I can fix because I actually do enjoy it. So we ran in there and we were running in there and started lifting weights, and I think within the first 4 or 5 months I had dropped about 35 pounds. I remember being 130 and shocked because of how just and how my stomach and physique looked and how much stronger I was, and just I had felt really good about it, and I had started to see that change. So I was hooked, from the beginning, and I ended up not playing football yet. So this was a big deal because all the kids left the next fall to play football, and I just kept lifting the weights. So we come back the next spring, and I'm stronger than all the kids there. There's only like a couple of them that are just big, stocky kids that were outlifting me at that point. I think like literally one or two out of a class of like 20 or 30. I went from the bottom to the top. And one of the coaches actually talked me into starting playing football. And so I just started lifting weights with everybody and playing football with it instead of like lifting weights with them and then lifting on my own whenever they went and did their sports. Like that's how I got roped into that. But I ended up making a lot of changes, and it was good for me going through those adolescence because I still look back and I don't know how I survived. And so I can't imagine. I don't think I absolutely would have survived had I not had lifting weights. It was a true lifesaver. It's saved my life. It's oh, voice is kind of shaky. I can feel it. It saved my life. It helped progress me forward. And I mean, I fell in love with it so much I've made a whole freaking career out of it. Am I right? So then that's what helped me get out of middle school, like, and it definitely, I loved what I loved about lifting weights. I mean, I was already in love with it because made me feel like a superhero. I was getting stronger. I enjoyed being strong. Also helped me not get picked on as much. Like, I started to get bigger. I started to fill out, and it was enough that, and I was playing football at the time. And, so people started seeing me as more of a tough guy instead of the wimp that I was or whatever. So that, it helped people treat me better. It helped, I noticed a difference in like almost every aspect of my life, and I totally fell in love with it. So then we get moving forward into high school. It was actually our sophomore year. So we were getting through football. We had just went through, we were halfway through the season. We just went through the hardest week of that season. The reason why is we were going to be playing against the coaches where the head coach graduated, his alma mater. So like anytime you're playing your alma mater, you want to kick their butts, prove a point, right? So he was super stressed out, screaming at us all week, and just you could tell he was just he was worried, he was freaked out. They were a good team that year, like it was going to be a hard deal. And we went in there, and right before we step out Friday night on that game, he chuckles to himself. This is the first time he'd laughed all week, and we're like, "Oh crap, what's going on?" We thought we were in trouble, and he goes, "I'll never forget this. This is kind of what started me on this path of personal training." He goes, "I love my job so much that I don't have to get up and wake up. I don't have to get up and go to work in the morning. I've already stuttered over the words I'll never forget." Let me reiterate. He said, "I love my job so much that I don't have to get up and go to work in the morning." And he's like, "I think that's what you should all strive for." Thank you, Coach Airy, for saying that. I'll go ahead and name drop you. Shout out. So it got me thinking because the year prior, I thought I was going to be an artist or an astronaut. Realized how much schooling an astronaut needed and didn't figure I could do that because we were already seeing my math skills were not the greatest. Crap. They had their limits. They're not terrible, but they have their limits for those who know me. And I had already failed out of freshman art the year before, so I was like, okay. And any other career, I had no idea what I wanted to do at that point. So, and I was starting to like stress out about it because everybody was like, "You got to have a path figured out for college." And I was like, okay. So then it got me thinking, like, what do I need to do? And this is whenever I started praying. I was like, "Lord, I have no idea what I want to do. Like, could you guide me? Like, what would you want me to do?" And then it really started. I really started to look into personal training because it was one of those deals. I really started to love the weights. We had just finished the football season. I was getting back into lifting weights, and one of the stronger guys, one of the strongest guys at this point, like there was 5 or 6 of us I graduated with that we were beasts. I was probably top 6 or 7 out of the 6 or 7 of us, because I mean they were monsters, you know. Uh, but anyways, we're doing it over. Thanksgiving, Christmas is shortly following the football season, and some of the younger kids are starting to follow me around. Some people that actually I do remember. I haven't talked to this guy since I seen him since this happened, so it's been 12 years now. Oh man. But a buddy I had remembered from youth group at church, and he had come back for a while. He'd went into the military, and he'd come back, and I gave him all these different tips on how to lift, and he was so excited and ecstatic, and he improved so much just from helping him with what I had helped him there that day. And that's kind of what got me sparking, like, okay, maybe this showing people how to lift weights. Like, let's give that a shot. So 16, that's whenever I decided, like, I'm going to be a personal trainer. Started telling people that. Told my parents, was praying about it, was looking for it, and that's what I did. It was fantastic. And then lo and behold, just a year later, my prayers were kind of answered for guidance, because I had no idea what I was doing at this point. No idea how to pursue it. This isn't something that we had in our hometown. Like, I had no idea. Never met a personal trainer. Never. I think I had heard the term personal trainer only a few years prior. So it's like, oh crap. Lo and behold, just a year later, we do job shadowing, and I have no idea who I'm going to job shadow. So then I was like, the best I can think of is the branch manager, I think at the time, at my local YMCA. So I'm just like, I'll just follow him around, do administrative stuff. Had no idea. Lo and behold, to my great surprise, there had been a personal trainer that within the past couple years, or 3 or 4 years, had started training at the Y and had no idea about it. Good old Bobby McGraw. He was my hero at the time, is my hero. So, heard about the guy, decided to go meet him, and boy, just a mountain of muscle, let me tell you. One of the biggest guys I'd ever seen in my life at that point. And shook his hand and told him I wanted to be a personal trainer and job shadow him. And I think he was a little reluctant at first, because I come to soon find out that there's been a lot of people that wanted to go down the path of the personal trainer, and I'm the only one thus far that ever took it for reals. But thank goodness he accepted, and we hung out. We did the job shadowing. I got to see for the first time in my life what it was like to be an actual personal trainer, to help people, to do what I wanted to do. And it was from that moment on that I knew that day this is what I wanted to do. We got along great. We were laughing and goofing by the end of it. By the end of the day, we had helped so many people that day, answered some questions, and filled out some paperwork for my job shadowing stuff with school. And I'll never forget that day. It was a wonderful experience. We talked to all these different questions. We ended up having to drive a couple different locations around town, because he was helping at the Y, out on the school track. Like, it was a good day. It was a good day, to say the least. So that happened at 17, then shortly after I graduated high school, and went on to do just some community college, basically get my generals out of the way, because still was not clear on what I needed to do on being a personal trainer. I did not ask that part at that time on, like, how do I actually do it. It was just, I need to go to school because this is what mom wanted. So through that, I ended up networking with a couple of other personal trainers and mentors too, and they ended up pointing me towards the International Sciences. What is it? Oh crap! Now I can't remember what ISSA stands for. Sports and Science Association. I don't know why it blanked on it for a second, but the International Sports and Sciences Association, ISSA, for online or for personal training certifications. And it was about 2015, right as about a year or so into college, when I got my first personal training certification. So now I got to back up for a second, because there's another part I missed. Shortly after I graduated, I started college. Still wasn't sure how to get started, so Chad, the main guy at the Y, had asked me if I wanted to work with some of the Silver Sneakers, some of the older ladies there, the senior citizens, teach a couple of fitness classes. And I had prayed about it a lot, and I thought, whatever you want, Lord, whatever the path is. But it really seemed like that was the Lord opening up a path for me to at least start working with people with the very limited knowledge I had at the time, just to see if I had the people skills and if I could do it. And this was something I wanted to do. This was rubber meeting the road, not just, oh, this is amazing. let's get it going. I had to try it for myself. So then I tried it. I tried that in late 2014, right as I turned 19. And we had done that, and within 6 months, I took over all the morning classes, and that's how much I fell in love with it. And that was my life for several years, doing that, just teaching the classes. Loved the ladies. Loved the. There's probably 100, 200 of them I worked with in the past 7 years of working with them. It was insane. It was the biggest, just a wonderful blessing. But hang on. Wow, this is just saying it all is a little getting into it. Am I right? So I'm doing the classes, and then shortly after that, about 2015, I think early 2016, I had finally studied and finally was brave about it, and finally decided to pull the trigger, I guess you could say, and finally started studying, took my tests, and got ISSA certified as a personal trainer. And that really started to change things, because a little bit before that I had already started training some people privately, but I started doing it even more, and that's when it started to blow up, because then I had a piece of paper to go with it, and that gave me so much confidence. And I think it was just a year. It was a year after, maybe not even a full year, that I got my nutritionist certification, and then I later got my transformation specialist and online coach certifications as well. And I am nowhere near done. I've just had a bunch of other business stuff to take care of. So throughout all that time, I had also ended up competing in men's physique. The whole reason I did that was I thought that'd be a way to help bring in more clients, and I didn't really bring in anybody, but it was a good life experience. And so then that's all it was for like several years, was I was just getting more clients, learning how to do things, learning how to do other things with it, and just expanding my knowledge from being a personal trainer, nutritionist, and transformation specialist into online coaching. And then I did men's physique. I even did some kickboxing for a while, threw some fights in there. It wasn't it wasn't the best, but I got through it. And then now I've also done some powerlifting and want to continue into that as well. And it was about 2018 is when I met my wife, Brandon. 2019 is when I decided to start setting things up for online. Had no idea what I was doing, but wanted to give it a shot. And then it was 2020 that I finally got into online, tried to give it a shot, really tried to go for it, and made one sale. Didn't do good at all, but that's okay, because after being miserable for an entire year of that, I remember saying, like, man, if we can get this online going, I'll be set. I remember telling Brandon for that and praying for it for about, the first 4 or 5 weeks of 2021. And that's when I met Josh Vago. That's whenever I randomly got on a call with him. And because they had actually outreached me just because they noticed that we were trying to set up online. We were advertising for online, or at least trying to post about online. We were trying to have a social media presence, and they could tell we were trying to take stuff online. So we ended up getting on a call, and we ended up signing on with these guys to start taking the business online. And that's when everything just went into overdrive and fast forward. Something I'd spent an entire year developing, and then an entire year trying to sell and get going and get started to do online. I couldn't do it. Couldn't even make headway. Like I said, one sale, no headway really. We were able to, in 4 months, get me set up where I could go online, and that was when it was July of 2021 is when I stopped doing the classes. And that was one of the roughest things I had done business-wise, making that decision, because that was where I started, and it had been a blessing for 7 years. But that has been, I think, the hardest thing. One of the hardest lessons I've had to learn with being an online coach and being on the path that God has called me on in the past few years is I'm moving forward, and there's some stuff I had to sacrifice and leave behind to go to my higher calling and to do the bigger and better things. So that was a very rough thing for me. There was a lot of memories, a lot of good things there that I still miss to this day. But we got through it, and now the business is completely online. So and I don't have to be in the gym anymore, which I do miss the gym. But the reason why I like doing this so much more is I'm able to help so many more people, in such a much better way. This is where God wants me. He wants me to be able, thankfully, He wants me to be able to help as many people as I can. And I'm glad that I can do it with online, because it's just so much better to do it that way. I've been able to have people make results in 6 months that I couldn't help make in 3 or 4 years. It's that incredible. And I can help so many more people, and And location doesn't matter anymore. I've worked with people all over the world at this point. I worked with my buddy Josh out of while he was living in Bali, Indonesia. If you want to Google that real quick, that's a 14-hour time difference, 13 some parts of the year, I think, because I still obey daylight savings time. Recently learned that in the past couple of years. Not everybody follows it. Not the whole world. But anyway, so he was on the other side of the world, sent all of his stuff a day early, and still got him amazing results. I've been able to help people states away, countries away, be able to help them transform their lives in ways that I never could if I had stayed in the gym. I'm sorry, I just never could have. And I'm able to reach so many more people, and I can, share my story, share my knowledge, and share my faith with them, as well as I've also... At the end of the day, what makes me so happy about this is you got to understand, I'm doing things I never thought possible. Being able to help people that I've never even met in person before. It truly feels like I have superpowers now. And that's the cool part about this story, is it ends up coming full circle. From childhood, I always wanted to be a superhero. And I'm doing it. I am fulfilling a childhood fantasy from when I was like 4, 5, 6 years old. And that's something that I've always thought was cool, like a question I like to ask all my friends. And if you're close enough to me, this is an indicator, because I've probably said it to you before. Now I'm thinking of it, there's only like 3 people I've probably asked this question to, so never mind. But I'll go ahead and ask it to the masses. Would your childhood self like how you turned out? And I think that's the coolest thing, is because I can look back and beyond a shadow of a doubt say that 6-year-old Nick I grew up to be my own hero. Like, let's be honest, I grew up to be a superhero, something that it's not possible, but it is. And that's something that I thank God for every day, is that I had the goofiest, most imaginative, most caffeine and TV and video game induced dream that you would think would be so off the wall, like, put it bluntly, stupid. And I can tell you with all honesty that no, I am living my childhood fantasy. I am a superhero. This is what it makes me feel like. It gives me purpose. It gives me intention when my feet hit the floor. And I'm just glad to be on this path and to be obedient. So, well, there it is. There's a short version of my hero story, my origin story, whatever we call it. Hope you enjoyed it. If this resonated with you at all, if you've made it this far, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, hearing me gush about everything. If you got any more questions, or interested in coaching, or needing help, or how I can help you and use my superpowers for good, please book a call. We'll probably have a link in the description below, or my DMs are always open. Please shoot me one, and I'd love to answer a question or just talk about things. So, thank you so much for hearing. I'm getting off. Love you. Bye.